My goodness. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Welcome back to Apollo Justice, Ace Attorney Trilogy, Turnabout Succession. We are finally going into the trial. I shouldn't say finally. We've literally only had one other day of this case so far. So what we learned, Phoenix has been on his little trips. His secret mission is to reinstate, reinstate a jurist system to Japanifornia. And we are going to be the defense attorney on the trial run. And our client seems guilty, ? According to Phoenix. But I don't believe him, because Vera doesn't look like she could hurt anybody. Especially her own father, considering she is basically mute, which is saying something. But we did find out that her father is a forger, or at least appears to be. And underneath the paintings were sketches of our 3 cases. So he has been paying attention to us, which is scary, even though we don't know him. So, I'm really excited. Our first witness is going to be our dear friend that we just met, Mr. Brushel. Ooh. Gotta be a time. And oh yeah, there's the whole thing with, there's a mysterious envelope for Trucy. We don't know what it's for yet, but she can't open it until the time is right. Hi! On your way home back from Cali. Ooh, I'm gonna be so swamped this week with finals. I've got 2 10-page papers I need to work on. Yikes. Yeah, good luck. If you don't mind me asking, are you an undergrad or grad school? Because if it's grad school, 10 pages is very generous. Not that it doesn't still suck. I just was curious, because I have had a generous professor in my grad school career who was like, yeah, well, no more than 10 pages, please. Like, oh, I could kiss you. Alright. I'm hoping we can get through this whole trial part today. You're an undergrad. Cool. Yeah, that sounds about right for undergrad, unfortunately. Yeah, hopefully we can get through this whole trial part today. We'll see how my voice holds up. I did do a lot of yapping this morning with my friend. Good morning.
So, you're Vera, right? I'm Trucy. Trucy Wright. That's right with a W. But not right. Right?
Yes, I'll have so much later. Yeah, me too. I mean, me too.
We're on your side. You can tell us anything. Please? Good morning.
Oh, she speaks.
Not bad. But I think you'd do better with a little smile, you know?
Don't be like that, Trucy.
You're so pretty. You need to sell yourself, you know?
Oh, Trucy, let's take it easy for starters. It's like, tone down the gay a little too.
Thank you for taking my case.
Okay. Well, that's a start, I guess. Yeah, she said thank you. Why are you complaining? Sorry, hold on. There we go. Oh, there she goes with the nail polish again. There's... Uh-oh. All right. I'm in his head, I guess, today. This is an Apollo day. That actually tracks. I've been very Apollo-coded all day, I think. There she goes with the nail polish again.
That's great, really. It's so cultured. Want to try? Ooh, really?
Girls. The victim, Drew Measham, was a forger. And a stolen painting was found in his studio. A life of crime, really. And maybe one that led to his death. I actually don't remember where that painting comes from, so I'm really curious to figure that part out. Trucy x Vera was not a ship I thought of before, but I can see it. How old is Vera, actually? Vera is 19. I see them in fics as, like, friends quite a bit. Like Vera shows up as a friend for both Trucy and Apollo. And that's used in various interesting ways. Especially in contrast to who I was just about to mention, my boy Clavier.
We will now begin the trial of the Vera Measham.
Is the judge okay? His voice is all raspy, and he's looking around all nervous-like.
The repercussions of today's trial will most likely be felt for a long time. It may indeed alter our legal system forever.
Hi, oh my god, I missed you. Mwah, 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 mwah. Today is a test of the jurist system, and the first step toward a new order in our courts.
Daddy's secret mission!
The jurists will function like a jury. It is hoped that their inclusion will help the courts to better reflect the people's will. Why aren't there any jurists in the courtroom? 3 closed-circuit cameras watch this courtroom at all times. The jurists have access to everything that transpires. Jurists, judge well and judge cool.
Now see here, Prosecutor Kevin. I was going to say that.
My apologies, Judge.
And jurists, today, judge today's trial coolly, if you would be so kind.
The jurists are unbound by the letter of the law. They don't affect the trial with evidence, but by their feelings. And we're about to find out just what effect they're going to have.
Very well, Prosecutor Kevin. The details of the case, if you would.
The victim is the painter, Drew Measham. Do you get it? Measham. He was killed in his own studio. His coffee was poisoned. By whom, you ask? By none other than the defendant, Vera Measham. Wasn't the coffee. There wasn't any poison in the coffee. Achtung. Someone has been doing their homework. Indeed, poison was not present in the coffee, but on the mug itself.
The mug. Ah, residue was found on the rim, I see.
The autopsy report describes the manner of our victim's death.
The court accepts this as evidence.
Okay. I believe the interview started at 9.
According to this report, the victim's death was caused by a troconine poisoning.
I looked this up to see if it was real. It's based on something real. Probably like arsenic-ish. Because like quinine is supposedly like a cure. And then atro in front of the prefix atro would mean like the opposite of. Which is, it's creative. A chemical compound that does not occur naturally. Lethal dosage is a mere 0.002 milligrams. A touch of atroconine in the body is the touch of the Reaper's scythe.
Very well, Prosecutor Kevin, you may present your witness.
I have for you today a simple man for a simple case. A man who witnessed the murder in its entirety. The journalist, no doubt. The witness will state his name and occupation. God, I gotta remember the voice I gave you. It was like Kermit the Frog meets like New York, like Raging 20s New York. Extra, extra. You know what I mean? All right. Well, for starters, my name's Spark Brushel. My job is a lone observer of the world. Well, I'll get there. In other words, a freelance journalist, right? If you don't mind, I'd like to state something here for the record.
Yes, Mr. Brushel.
I dislike conclusions, specifically the aspect of jumping to conclusions. Preconceptions make park, sandbox, endless desert waste. End quote. But you are a journalist. You said so yourself yesterday. Well, that's true, yes. But you must understand, I stand before you today a man with a dream. I'm offering you my testimony in exchange for exclusive rights to the story. Scoop turns Mr. Brushel into that Mr. Brushel, end quote.
Let's hear your testimony then, shall we?
A simple case, eh, Gavin? For me, the jury is still out. Not Prosecutor Gavin, just last name. I can't wait to play this game in Japanese. I can't wait. I visited the studio around 9 o'clock that night to do the interview. First outsider to enter the atelier. Journalistic history made, end quote. His daughter brought us coffee right after we started. And you know what happened next? Star falls, end quote. No one else entered the room besides her the whole time. Oh, okay.
That does sound like a simple case. Unless you were the one who poisoned him.
What are you saying, Judge?
Need I remind you, the cameras are rolling today. I felt the need to be a bit dramatic.
You didn't do it, did you? Me do a thing like that? Come on, that's like newsmaker making the news, end quote. Or even contemporary witch hunt, end quote. I know, wild accusations rock courtroom, end quote. Rock indeed. Prosecutor Gavin sure looks like he's having fun. He loves attention. I didn't say the same thing as Apollo, but we had the same attitude. It's because he loves attention. I'm so happy for him.
Very well, Mr. Justice, your cross-examination, please.
Okay. I have like a piece of dead skin on my lip that keeps moving around and I can't like catch it to like rip it off. It's really, really distracting. 9 at night. Isn't that a little late for an interview? If the great painter Drew Measham says come at 9 o'clock, believe you me, I go at 9 o'clock. The first and, as it turned out, last interview with such a prolific painter. Right. Can you tell us what it was like when you arrived? You were the first reporter ever in Drew's studio. Posterity will look back on that night as a turning point in journalistic history. A basically insignificant step for all mankind, but a giant step for that Brushel guy, end quote. If no one on the outside ever had access to the studio, then it would serve to reason that the deed was done by an insider. By which he means Vera did it. So, how did this epoch-making interview go? That's how you pronounce that, right? I probably should have given him more of an ugh. Because he's pretending to be German still. A little bit. I feel like... I'll get into it. But I feel like his fake German accent is not really present in present day. As much as it was in the past. And we'll get there. Would you mind being a little more specific? Ooh, let me tell you, I enjoy a cuppa. In fact, it all began when I was in 3rd grade. No, wait, 4th grade. That's not what I meant. I believe I know what Cat Forehead is driving at. This coffee the victim was served. Did anyone other than the defendant touch it? Right. That's what I was going to say, really. It's okay, Clavier's helping you. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay! Apollo, I know you have trust issues. It's okay, he's going to help you. You can trust him! You guys can trust each other, it's okay. Well, now if you've got a question to ask, you best ask it. Best straight up ask it. That's what I tell all the new recruits, several times if necessary. Right for a grade schooler. That's my motto. I actually love that. Which isn't to say I can only write grade school level. Who touched the coffee? Dunno. I was in the back looking at the studio's equipment when she served it. And what happened next? Oh my god, I keep like almost burping directly into the mic. What's this about a star falling?
Star falls, huh? It's like an old telegram. Send money over.
Is that what you don't know? That's like a journalism code word. An important personage passes away, a star falls. Get it?
But there's no gravity in space, is there? I wouldn't think stars could fall, really.
Does this matter? Does this matter? Oh boy, this is good stuff, good stuff. How about star breaks? Nah, lacks punch. I know, star dies. Nah, lacks imagination. Of course, you could go with Drew dies, straight to the point. I like it. I think we need to hear more about something, or I think we need to hear about something a little more substantial. I would choose this, I think. You say Mr. Measham had the coffee too, but did you actually see him drink the coffee? Of course! He who sees it wins, but he who says it wins bigger, end quote. I live in a man sees dog eat dog and writes about it world. Yet? I guess I can't say I saw him drink it, really. He had one so-called sip, if that. Man puts lips to mud, drinks, end quote.
That poison is quite virulent, I hear.
My stomach did a so-called somersault, since I gulped down that coffee without so much as a second glance at it. Oh wait, maybe something's there, some kind of so-called trick. Anyone want to venture a guess, for the record? Does this guy have a pause button?
Well, Mr. Justice, did you find the testimony valuable?
Sorry, I saw him drink it. We might as well add it. The victim drank his coffee, then immediately fell over. Oh, that doesn't make sense because the poison doesn't act that fast. Oh, yes. You can go to press with that one. Your Honor, this is a vital piece of information. Ooh, I can't wait to get more into my Apollo character analysis of his abandonment and trust issues later. No, I must hold it. Don't worry, you can DM me about it because I played all the games except Professor Layton, so I have thoughts about it every single day. He's just like me for real. Apollo and Edgeworth are the two characters I probably relate to the most, and then Clavier would probably then be the next. Simon and then Clavier. Maybe Simon and Clavier are... Simon Blackwell and Clavier are tied, maybe. And then, like, Athena, maybe? Or Emma. Anyway, but easy top two that I relate to is Edgeworth and Apollo. Please add it to the testimony.
Very well, the witness will add this to his testimony.
Vital, right? Okay. He had one sip, if that. The next moment, he was on the floor. That doesn't make sense because the time. So he either took a sip or he didn't, and then fell over. Oh yes, indubitably, just like that. Wham bam. So Mr. Measham drank the coffee and fell over immediately. I think Brushell's telling the truth, too. Should I get him to talk about something else? No need. There's no real need to change the testimony. The problem with the testimony is already pretty obvious. Good. Glad Apollo knows. Can you say that for sure? For sure! Sure, I'm sure! Drew's studio was in a big place, kiddo. I'd know it if someone else had come in. What if they had been hiding in there from before? I can talk. Don't worry. Even if someone had been hiding in the studio, nice stutter there, forehead, they hardly could have poisoned that mug without anyone noticing. You think Spark Brushell would miss something as obvious as that? No way!
He sure makes it sound exciting. I guess that's his job.
There's only one moment we need to focus on, really.
The moment when Mr. Drew Measham died, I added Mr. just out of respect.
Exactly. There has to be something there. Alright, I think I'm correct, but I'm gonna double check the evidence, because if I'm not, I have no idea. But I think I remember this, because I remember thinking it when we were, it's a slow-acting poison. Emma told us that. So he couldn't have drunk it and then immediately keeled over. Emma, if I remember correctly, Emma said it was like 15 minutes that it could take. Oops. Okay. Objection! Okay, cool. You know what I have a problem with? A particular property property of the poison used, atroquinine.
Oh, Prosecutor Gavin was quite clear about the poison. A lethal dosage of 0.002 milligrams paralyzes the central nervous system. If you drank that, even you, Mr. Justice, would be reduced to a quivering pile.
Why are you using me as an example? Unfortunately, we weren't told everything. There was a vital omission in Prosecutor Gavin's information.
An omission?
Atroquinine is as virulent as he says, but death doesn't come upon ingestion, not immediately. That's because atroquinine is slow acting.
Slow acting?
What? According to one forensic scientist. It's one of the most virulent poisons, but is absorbed into the body astonishingly slowly. It takes at least 15 minutes from the time of ingestion for adverse effects to show. If we suppose that the moment Mr. Measham sipped the coffee was when he sealed his fate, then he would still have had time. Oh, I can't talk today. I'm really sorry, guys. Then he would have still had time to let me try this one more time. Then he would still have had time left to enjoy his last cup of joe. Brushel, are you good? You're very skinny.
Order! What's the meaning of this? If what the defense says is correct, why, that contradicts the entire testimony we've just heard.
Well, Mr. Brushel, anything to say on the record? Slow act. It was virulent, all right. Even then, it had already begun digging its claws into the journalist.
He's working on his scoop.
There it is. It's Brushel, yeah. Yeah, Brushel. Let's take a trip back down memory lane. Huh? Did the victim really die at the instant he took a sip? Think it over. This is vital. You know what I think? I think that was a not-so-subliminal suggestion, end quote. I admit it does cause a problem if he died when you say he died. I would be forced to say auf Wiedersehen to my simple case. And you would be forced to say farewell to your article. Come again? You can't write a story based on conjecture, can you? I mean, he can, he just shouldn't. And as the case drags on, other reporters will pick up on the scent. And you'll be forced to kiss your exclusive scoop goodbye. The scoop? The scoop! God, I don't like the toothbrush is too much. Look, just wait a second. Just one second.
We're waiting. Out with it.
I think I just recalled a so-called important detail. A revival of recollection, end quote. A story survival, end quote. Attorney utterly confused, end quote. Actually, oh, that was a weird growl I gave. Brushel is such a helpful witness, but his design is so... Yeah, I like his character. His design is a little too much for me. Actually, I did notice something when I visited the studio. I'd heard of poison that takes its sweet time, see? But not what I've been saying for the last few minutes, apparently.
Mr. Brushel, are you saying you've noticed something that explains what happened?
You bet I am. The antidote for a poisonous contradiction, end quote, you might say. Or, I still have no idea what you're talking about, end quote, I might say. I figured it out, but only after an in-depth interview. See, thanks to my journalism skills, I know who poisoned that coffee. The coffee wasn't poisoned, bestie.
Order!
As far as I can tell, the witness is standing by his testimony. That Mr. Measham died the instant after he drank. Of course, I'm standing by my testimony, and my dream of exclusive rights to this story. Ugh. I suppose it was too much to hope for. Okay. Clavier spent some time in Germany. And I will say, like, if you spend time abroad and you pick up on a second language, there are things, if you continue to, like, try using that language in your everyday life instead of just, like, casting it aside, there are things that stay in your vocabulary kind of permanently. And I do think that if I had really, like, dug my heels into trying to learn German, Ach would have been one of them, because I definitely am like, sometimes like from learning Korean or like from learning Chinese or like more from learning Japanese, like the thing you say when you're stressed and disappointed is a global sensation, and so if you know it in different languages, it just tends to come out in whichever one is the most fun to say. Like, and there are some phrases too that don't really exist in English that like I like naruhodo ne, like that I say that at work and the kids are like, huh? I'm like, don't worry about it. What was? Of course he wouldn't choose a simple case. Not him. Him? Phoenix Wright. Who else? Achtung, Herr Bruschel. Report for us, if you would. What is it that you noticed?
This court is a critical trial of the jurist system. I'm afraid no room for doubt is permissible. You will testify to the court about what you noticed.
When I arrived at the studio, Mr. Meacham was at his desk. He seemed to be writing a letter, but he quickly sealed the envelope. I thought nothing of it at the time, of course. Now that I think about it, what if he was writing a suicide note? Interesting.
A suicide note?
Yes, he had this look on his face. Man's face inscrutable as a quadratic equation, end quote.
Suicide? Poor Mr. Meacham. But that means Vera's innocent.
Would someone commit suicide in the middle of an interview?
Oh.
Very well, you may begin your cross-examination.
Was there anyone at the studio other than Mr. Meacham? Well, his daughter Vera, of course. Was anyone besides Mr. Meacham and Vera present? Not a single one. Not a cat, not a rat, not even a mouse. The only person who didn't belong to that studio there was you, wasn't it, Mr. Bruschel? I know what you're doing. I know your game. Attorney uses classic Ramsden phenomenon ploy, end quote. What is that? If you intend to suggest that this reporter is a suspect, I'm sure you also intend to present evidence supporting that assertion, correct? In the meantime, let's move along, shall we? So he put the letter away when he saw you? Early reporter gets worm, end quote. The Klapalofics that have Clavier call Apollo German pet names like Liebling and Schatzi get me every time. Yeah, I do love the idea of him using, especially Schatz and like Schatzi, because it's not obvious. Like, Ich liebe dich is like a common enough German phrase that I think that like Apollo, being who he is, would be able to figure out what Liebling is, but like Schatz is so like, huh? That he would be like, why does he call me this? Like, I do love that very much. That's my secret. I'm not sure I follow. It's the night of the interview. I arrive 15 minutes ahead of schedule. The handle turns, the door opens, and I barge in. Are you sure that's okay to do? I mean, isn't that unlawful entry, really? Mr. Meacham sure seemed to think so. You should have seen him. He crammed his letter into that yellow envelope as fast as he could. I know a secret when I spot one, and that was one.
It does seem significant. Well, Mr. Justice,
I wonder. It does have the ring of something important. Added to the testimony. The defense finds this testimony vital, Your Honor.
Very well, please add it to the testimony then.
Hey, why not? My account comes free of charge. And you saw him seal this yellow envelope with the letter? Hey, don't look at me like that. I saw what I saw.
Apollo, you think this might be
our big break? Yeah. What I need is to show some decisive evidence now. But I want all the dialogue.
I want all the dialogue.
You didn't think anything might be wrong at the time? Hey, when I go in for an interview, that's what I'm there to do. Interviewer finds... Look... Actually, hold on, I just realized something. That's when it happened then. If he died right around... Okay. Interviewer finds looking more effective than caring, end quote. So what about now? Thinking back on it, did you sense anything strange in Mr. Measham's behavior? Well, yeah, that's why I'm telling you all this to begin with.
Very well, continue with your testimony.
A suicide note? Well, yeah, don't quote me or anything. I'm just saying it's a possibility, you know? So you didn't actually check the letter? Of course not. It was sealed. Contents of can unknown until can is opened, end quote. You can always check the label.
Do you think Mr. Measham was writing a suicide note?
If he was, that would solve the case in a jiffy.
It kind of makes me wonder about that letter.
Yeah, Trucy, I also wonder about that letter. Was it originally perhaps in a manila envelope? Because, oh, didn't this say he's... This... No, because this part was from 7 years ago. Okay. I don't think so. Okay. I don't think there was a yellow envelope, was there? But there was there a manila envelope at his desk? I can't remember. As it just so happens, there was a single letter in a desk drawer at the scene. In a red envelope. What? Prosecutor Gavin. Yes? Was a yellow envelope found at the scene of the crime? Unfortunately, no. But hair forehead. It's easy to mistake the color of an envelope. Maybe he has color blindness. It's very common in men. I guess. But not this envelope. You see, it was postmarked already. 7 years ago.
Well, Mr. Brushel.
I can explain that. Drew, right? He wanted to get that letter in an envelope pronto. Get it out of sight, out of my beady eyes, right? So he grabbed the nearest envelope and crammed away. And what about the whole red and yellow envelope contradiction, chump?
Well, Mr. Justice, have you anything to say to the witness's claim?
I think that it's possible that he put the envelope in the mailbox. That might be it. That night, the victim put a letter he had been writing in a red envelope. No, because this was from 7 years ago, right? That's impossible. I like your expression. So full of confidence. It's simple, really. As it just so happens, the defense team investigated the contents of this envelope. With, the assistance of a forensic scientist. What? Note that this letter is addressed to Drew Measham. Oh! Why would he address a letter to himself? Let alone send a suicide note to himself. I've been scooped!
Order! 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 Mr. Brushel, can you explain this to the court?
Oh my. How could I have forgotten? I suppose this happens to the best of us. Reporter gets old, forgets lots, end quote.
I'm still waiting for an explanation, Mr. Brushel.
Well, that's the thing, see? After he put in his letter to that envelope, Mr. Measham sat there searching his desk drawer for something. His desk drawer? Yes, a stamp, a so-called postage stamp, end quote.
A stamp? Whatever for?
Well, to mail his letter, what else? And then, why, yes, I think he saw him put his letter in the box. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He put it in the mailbox. Put it in his letterbox. Yes, it was a yellow envelope. And he put it in that box. And somebody was ready to take it. Oh.
Well, apparently this yellow letter has nothing to do with this case.
Oh, how I wish it did. Just think if that were a suicide note. What a story. Star writes suicide note in front of reporter, falls. End quote.
Ahem. As I was saying, that has nothing to do with this case.
It might.
That said,
Yes, Your Honor.
it makes me wonder about the contents of that red envelope. An $100,000 is quite a good deal of money.
So this was from 7 years ago, yeah? Oh. So, am I finished? Here, I mean, am I finished here? I was thinking of, going home to start writing. No, I don't think so. I hate to state what should be pretty obvious to anyone, but when you catch the scent of a story, you make that a rather unique face. Come on! Attorney has active imagination, little else. End quote. Hey, that's rude. Hey, that's really rude.
Even I noticed something, and my eyes aren't what they used to be. I'm starting to understand what all this perceiving stuff is about.
Judge has active imagination. End quote.
Please continue with your testimony. Tell us about the scent of a story.
Hey, I'm the one asking the questions here, usually. Your glasses have got to be super scratched up, honestly. Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview. Reporter leverages story, gets his interview, end quote. The story concerned a certain case from 7 years ago. Uh-oh. That red envelope probably had something to do with it. Say what you will, but Drew's talent was without compare. Uh-oh.
So you threatened to go to the press with this story? That's how you got your interview? Blackmail?
Well, yes. I mean, no. It wasn't exactly black. I mean, I'm not...
Something wrong, Mr. Brushel.
Look. This is my story, my tidbit. Journalist info is livelihood, end quote.
I see.
While you have me chatting away in here, what's going on out there? What if some Wally Wordsworth or Sally Scooper gets wind of my story? They could be going to press while I'm going to waste.
The court feels your pain, Mr. Brushel. Mr. Justice, let's pick up the pace.
A certain case 7 years ago. Wait, 7 years ago? Uh-oh. Ooh, the bracelet came out. The victim, Drew Measham, had an aversion to reporters. Boy, I guess not even my considerable charms did much for him. Until I finally got my thumbs up, that is. Maybe you can elaborate on that for a bit for us? Exactly what sort of story was this? Oh, a little one, like I said. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing in between, end quote. I might have suggested I had a lead on this particular story. But I didn't threaten, or cajole, or nothing, in it, honest. So a suggestion was enough to get an interview? Mr. Measham must have really wanted to keep it under wraps. Yeah, if he has something bad enough that he doesn't even have to be threatened with. A certain case 7 years ago? Tell us, what case? Let me say one thing, Mr. Attorney, and you can quote me on this. I can't talk about that case. Razor Crossing, if Nick had a kid, Maya is Maya the mother? Nope. The kid is not biological. She's adopted. Why not? It's about journalistic pride and staunchness and credibility and connections. Journalist reveals sources only over his dead body. We hate this behavior. End quote. So what'll it be? Gonna strangle me? Dead men don't tell tales, Mr. Attorney. He sounds pretty determined not to talk.
Our chances of breaking his will aren't looking good.
On the one hand, we have your story, and on the other hand, this letter. I added another hand in there, sorry. What makes you think the two are related? Oh, I was just saying it's possible. If the original trilogy takes place in late 2016 to early 2017, when does this take place? 2026. The ending of the ending of the trilogy takes place in 2019. And this is 7 years later. Called reporter's intuition, end quote. Hey, I say a lot of things. You going to pick them all apart? Be my guest. Dude, if Apollo had the time for it, his pedantic ass, for sure. All of them? No, just the incredibly suspicious ones.
I see. Anything else to add about Mr. Measham?
Just how amazing was Mr. Measham's talent? Huh? Hooey boy, I mean, hey, he's a star, man, a star. The flow of his brush is like a great undulating river across the canvas. Artist paints light up studio like sun, end quote. It's every word capitalized that really, like, throws me off every time. This guy is full of wacky gestures, but that one just now was wackier than usual.
He looks kind of nervous to me, Apollo.
Definitely. I'm sensing something different than before here. Maybe it's time to bring out you-know-what.
That testimony left a bad taste in my mouth.
It all makes sense. Nothing jumps out as ridiculous.
I wonder what this story he's talking about is. It must have been good to get an interview with a famous recluse. Recluse? Is it recluse or recluse? I don't know. Like that?
Something powerful enough to drag Drew Measham out of hiding. I wonder. Maybe it had something to do with Mr. Measham's art? You could say that. Okay. Oops. This one. Perceive. I remember what this one is because it's gross. Hear it again. I missed it, but I know what it is. I guess this is the second part. Gross! Gotcha! I remember that because it's gross! Sweat much, Mr. Brushel? You should get an antiperspirant, brother. Have you ever tried? You gotta look at the percentage. It needs to be, if you sweat that much, you gotta look at it and see it's at least 18%. Or go to a doctor. Get like a prescription. Oh, yeah, well, a man can help his glands, you know. Gross. It's more than that. When Mr. Measham's talent was mentioned, you suddenly began to sweat buckets. What the hell was that, High Karma? You know. Ah. You're hiding something about his talent. Why did his mouth move just now? That was a mistake. What? That's ridiculous! Evidence time. Let's show where Mr. Measham's true talent lay. It just so happens I have evidence showing the talent mentioned in that letter. Forgery. I assume it's this? Or I can't help but wonder what the court is supposed to conclude from this evidence. Oh, what? Other than that, you've made a horrible mistake? Man burns bridge, forgets to cross first. End quote. Sick trials and trials and tribulations reference. Yeah, let's try that again. All I have to do is reveal what Mr. Measham really was. That shouldn't be so hard, right? I need some Old Spice. Actually, never mind. I don't know what the hell that was. Yeah, that's perhaps better. I don't know. If it's not this one, then maybe this one? And if it's not this, it's the letter. Okay, this is dumb because it's not his. Okay, game, whatever. This painting was found in Mr. Measham's studio. Oh. There are two problems with this painting. The first is it wasn't painted by Mr. Measham. The second is that there was another painting in the studio which looked exactly like this one, except it was only half done. Then we have a letter discussing a payment of $100,000, which suggests a certain business operation. The business of making forgeries. Oh! That's so disturbing. God, his design is so gross. I like his character so much, but he's so gross. That is all, Your Honor. Everyone, please, everyone! Can we keep this private, please? This is my story! My scoop! My scoop!
The way I said that was so silly.
Forgery! That's a serious crime!
Drew Measham is known as an artist these days, but there were rumors he dabbled in another kind of art until a few years back.
Another art meaning forgery.
Drew Measham was talented, alright. Talented at making precise, detailed fakes. A fact that certain criminal elements were quick to discover. Criminal elements? What? You can't seriously be talking about. Exactly. I'm talking about forging evidence. Put a pin in that one. The rumor started circulating 7 years ago.
This is 7 years ago? So are we to understand that this letter, this payment of $100,000 was for...
Exactly. Forged evidence nets tidy profit, end quote.
Order, order, order! Why, it's like our victim was living a double life.
This is my chance. So the victim had ties to the criminal world, right? He could have had plenty of enemies we know nothing about. This is my first time hearing of this criminal world. We certainly found no criminal connections when we conducted our investigation. But how do you explain all this money? You have to admit there's a possibility of some illegal activity here. But there is no proof tying this letter to our case. Our case was, and remains, simple from the beginning. Only the defendant could have poisoned that mug that night. And you, of course. Hey! The only thing I poison is my pen when I'm writing reviews! Reviews! Losing it.
Mr. Brushall, your testimony to this point has been quite unreliable.
He's not the worst witness we've had, Judge. He's not even close.
It doesn't speak well of your reporting acumen.
What are you talking about? My journalism is rock solid. Journalism so solid you could stand an elephant on it, end quote.
In any case, let's hear a summarized recap of your testimony. If we can ascertain the situation in that studio from the recap, the trial is over.
Apollo, what's he talking about? The cross-examination showed Mr. Brushall didn't have reason or means to poison him. As long as there are no other suspects, then the killer had to be Vera. That's what. This next testimony is our last chance.
Mr. Brushall, your testimony, please.
The only other person in the studio that night was the defendant. It was Vera who poured the coffee. She's admitted as much herself. The only thing that touched Drew's lips during the interview was that mug. And nothing left in that studio after he died. Nothing. Oh, nothing left that studio after he died. Right? That's not necessarily true, because you just said that a letter got put into the letterbox, and now the letterbox is empty. Okay. Clearly, the only one who could have poisoned him was his daughter. We need to find that letter. A nice testimony. Clear, succinct, and without room for doubt. Aw, shucks. You really think so?
I believe this clarifies the situation that night. Very well, Mr. Justice. You may begin your final cross-examination.
Right. I still have one trump card left to play. And I won't let this trial end till I use it. Okay. This is true. But I want to hear what he says. But that doesn't prove Vera poisoned it. How many times have we heard that one, forehead? The poison reached its victim via that coffee mug. And from where did that coffee come, Not to beat a dead horse again and again, but perhaps you could fill us in. I'm on it. You need a horse beat. I'm your man. Don't beat a horse. Ever. And you witnessed her pouring the coffee. Of course I didn't witness it when she came in with that tray. The coffee was already poured and a-steamin'. Let us not forget the defendant has admitted to pouring the coffee herself. I heard her statement. I poured, I served, and I killed. What? That last part was just a little joke. It was just a little joke. So silly. What if the letter had anthrax? Anthrax is not something I thought about in such a long time. When I was growing up, we made so many anthrax jokes. When I was like 9 or 10, I don't know what it was, like, kids these days won't understand the anthrax jokes. Or do kids still do them? And I just have grown out of it. You tell me. I don't think I'm going to get anywhere with this coffee mug. I need to find another weak spot in this case. You're sure about that? Are you sure about that? Well, to be really, really precise, I was busy gobbling mint candies the whole time. One of those candies might have been poisoned. Yet at the time of the autopsy, no fresh fragrance of mint filled the room. And no mint residue was found. It was a long shot anyway. Don't tell me you're still trying to prove this? You think the victim ate, drank, or otherwise ingested something other than coffee?
Well, Mr. Justice, if you have some proof...
The possibility is there, I can feel it. Just maybe not prove it yet. Impossibility isn't going to cut it. Not now. Mr. Measham ingested that poison via a route other than the coffee. I can't prove it yet. It can't be proven. I do believe our little forehead is growing up. Pity. We like the rash, youthful forehead best. Another hole in this case that needs plugging before I can prove anything. But first things first. I better uncover a weak spot before I try to strike again.
On with the cross-examination.
Don't speak of holes. Boy, don't speak of holes that you don't know anything about. Not one thing. You're sure? Yep, sure can be. Well, with one exception.
One exception? What?
Journalist Spark Brushel does interview, leave studio. End quote. Come on. It's a joke. Get it? Not funny, I know, but still. At least he admits it's not funny. We appreciate a king who can admit he's not funny. Did something leave the studio that night? Why does that sound familiar? Where have I heard something like that before? He told us. But we don't have the evidence of that, do we?
Now that we've proven our witness is a comedian of sorts, I'd like to turn to our defense attorney before returning to the testimony. Do you have any idea what, if anything, might have left the studio that night?
I don't think that we necessarily have evidence specifically of the thing. But if we could try... Hold on. Let me see what the letterbox says. Okay. I think we can do this. We're gonna see. If not, we load. Load tonight, Queen? I think one thing might very well have left the studio that night, actually. A certain something that has vanished from the crime scene.
By which you mean? Something other than our witness.
It's something our witness told us about. Of course. Don't tell me. Vera Measham. Believe me, any comic relief I may provide is entirely unintentional. That's always so true. Apollo's so funny without trying.
Then let's see what you've got for us, Mr. Justice.
Well, this thing wasn't at the scene of the crime, so I can't show it to you. But I do have evidence that shows how it could have been taken from the scene. Cool. Okay, this is it then. Hell yeah. This is the only link between that studio and the outside world.
A letterbox.
What did Mr. Brushel just tell us? When he entered the studio on the night of the murder, the victim had just finished writing a letter. Yeah, you said that, and it was true. Furthermore, you went on to tell us that he put the letter in a yellow envelope and put it in a letterbox.
Ah,
But that very same letterbox was empty. In other words, that night, the yellow envelope disappeared. Ah, yes, intriguing. So an envelope has disappeared from the scene of the crime. Of course, this changes nothing. Huh?
he has a point, Mr. Justice.
Well, how do you seal a letter? You use your mouth most of the time. Although these days, I think since COVID, some people now use glue sticks or tape. I use tape for security reasons. Just because I've lived in a city, aka New York, where I've gotten mail and packages stolen. You know how it'd be. But when this game came out, people were still licking them. They were licking them envelopes.
What we're trying to figure out here is how the poison got into Mr. Measham. Is it really important that this envelope the witness says he saw disappeared?
Well, if it did disappear, then something did leave the studio that night. That seems very important to me.
Very well then, the witness will add this to his testimony.
You got it. I still think this fails to change anything half forehead. That sounds like a man who's never sent a letter in his life. Sounds like a bitch that's done everything by email. I wouldn't be so sure. A letter disappeared from the crime scene that night. This is exactly the opening I've been looking for. Apollo seems like he knows how to use tech, but still does letters. Why not? Why not? Nothing could be more serious than an envelope disappearing from that studio. And you were hiding that fact from us. Yes, well, actually. I don't argue the possibility that a letter disappeared from that studio. But half forehead, isn't there a much more serious question before us? Right. How Mr. Measham was poisoned, I know. But Mr. Brushell's testimony has changed, which means the facts of the case have too. And what he's told us means something entirely different now, I'm starting to think.
Let's keep thinking, Apollo.
You say clearly as though it were obvious. But this claim that the defendant poisoned the victim is merely conjecture. Yes, well, you see. In my business, it's all about making the most ridiculous things sound right. A bad habit, I know. Yes, well, actually. I guess this is more a case of a ridiculous journalist sounds wrong, end quote.
Of course, court is forced to agree with you. Please refrain from wild conjecture.
Understood loud and clear. If only I could believe that.
What do you think, Apollo? Everything he's saying seems so not flawed.
Well, that's kind of what you want from a testimony, really. I need to keep my eye on what matters. Keep your head in the game, Justice. How and why was Drew Measham killed? Vera poured the coffee. That's not going to change. But if that coffee didn't kill him, I need to find out what did and prove it. Okay. Alright. I think it matters because of this. But I could be wrong. I'm wrong. Okay. Oops. This evidence clearly reveals a contradiction in that statement, Your Honor. How exactly are the guys? They aren't, are they? Just like our mentor. Phoenix Wright. I know you. Hello tonight. Okay. Alright. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. God, I will say this game takes a while to load. I hardly think that matters. Is it this? No. Cat doesn't remember this case as well. Oopsie. Cat doesn't remember this case as well. I just remember all the Klapalo bits, because I'm a Fujoshi. Is it this? Am I putting this on the wrong thing? It's fine. Thanks, Karma. Oh, there was a thing I could press before, wasn't there? Fuck, what statement was that? A Fujoshi? Karma, God, how do I explain Fujoshi? It's a Japanese word that has come into the American English lexicon, I think. And I guess other Englishes too. But especially American English, and a lot of people don't understand the context of how it is used. Okay. I think it was this statement. If not, it's the one before. You sure about that? Well, to be really good, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. I'll explain it later. Remind me. Remind me before I end stream to explain what a Fujoshi is. Okay, here we go. If you have some proof, possibly there, I can feel it. Ingested that poison via a route other than the coffee. Proof is possible. Here goes nothing. He's so funny. You do understand what we need. Yeah. Proof, hair forehead, not possibilities. Of course. And Prosecutor Gavin, I hope you understand. I'm ready to give you that proof. What did you say? I have proof of the disappearing envelope. So I'm writing a letter, I did.
Which was picked up by the mailman, I assume.
Of course. Which means that envelope had a stamp on it.
A stamp? Nah.
As we all know, stamps come with dried glue on the back. In order to use the glue, you have to wet it. Are they not stickers? Oh, I guess old stamps were like this. Okay, this game... I forgot this game came out 2007. By licking the stamp. You used to lick stamps. Okay. No one we're talking to actually licks stamps in this day and age. Proving my point about the email thing. This man has never written a letter. Even if you wanted to talk to him, you couldn't. He's dead, after all. Okay, so he licked the stamp. But wait, how does that explain that troconine on the rim of the coffee mug? He had it already on his lips. If he licked the back of a poisoned stamp, the poison would get on his tongue. Yes? What would then happen if he put the coffee mug to his mouth? Those traces on the mug weren't the killer's doing. It was the other way around.
What?
The coffee mug didn't poison Mr. Measham. Mr. Measham poisoned the coffee mug himself. Well, then who poisoned the stamp?
Order! That doesn't... does it?
Recall, if you would. Atroconine is a slow-acting poison, yes. The poison entered his body when he put the stamp on that envelope. But his time wasn't up until the very moment he touched his lips to that cup of joe. Clavier literally has no one to email or send a letter to besides Apollo. Karma, that's... Oh! You're right. Unfortunately, that's correct. And I'll die on that hill with you. Cheers. I take a little sippy of my hydration drink in honor of that quote, or of that comment. Oh.
You have something to add, Mr. Bushel?
Uh-oh. His nose is picking up another scent. As I believe I mentioned earlier. Well, that's the thing, see. After he put his letter in that envelope, Mr. Measham sat there searching his desk drawer for something. Yes, a stamp, a so-called postage stamp, end quote. But you know, I don't seem to remember him ever finding one. Well, he couldn't have sent the letter without one.
Maybe he'd just run out.
Incidentally, we searched the desk drawer at the scene of the crime. There were no stamps. Not a single one.
That does pose a problem. How will you prove that the stamp was coated with poison?
I'm getting this far into this Clavier and Apollo rabbit hole, and I don't mind. Let's fucking go! Actually, I'm glad no other stamps were found. It makes proving the stamp he used was poison possible. Good show. Good show. You can't even prove there was a stamp at the scene in the first place.
Well, let's hear what the defense has to say anyway. It'll be funny. Where's your evidence that this proves the existence of this poison stamp?
Oh, sorry. Where's your evidence that this proves... the fucking thing. This thing. Okay.
Well, that certainly is a cute little frame, and by little I mean really little.
It was on the victim's desk, Your Honor. Quite empty, as you can see for yourself. I noticed that too during my inspection. So what? Ah, apparently you weren't as observant as you should have been. Damn, get his ass! Apparently you weren't as observant as you should have been. You see, when you saw this frame, it was missing something quite important. I can talk. Don't worry about it.
Missing something?
Yes. A pale bluish stain on the inside of the frame. A troconine residue. What? Why wasn't I told about this? The frame is only 2 inches square. The face of the frame is even smaller. Unless he wants to send Kristoff a letter in jail. Ivy! We can't. Damn, Apollo, get his ass. That's their whole relationship, platonic or not. Like, they have to... Their love language is roasting each other, I fear. Maybe an inch wide at most. You aren't saying. Oh, but I am. Tell me, what fits in such a small frame? A commemorative stamp, perhaps? So Japanese. So Japanese, これは. Who would frame a fucking stamp? So Japanese じゃない? Like, this is such a Japanese thing. Like, who would do this? No one I know. Ever. Even stamp collectors, they would put it in a book. But like, I don't know, have you ever seen an otaku's room? Drew Misham confirmed Fudanshi. Just kidding. I'll explain later.
Order.
Sorry. That one really made me laugh. No one thinks that's funny except me, but I don't care. I'm doing these streams for me anyway. Well, all people would have their own type of love language, so I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
The poison stamp was in this frame?
Impossible.
Prosecutor Gavin.
Why would he put something like that on his desk? Don't tell me he had it there so he could commit suicide if the mood struck. You know, can I say something? I had a thought, see?
What, Mr. Brushel? And please stop jittering about like that.
The victim was a forger, right? There's a lot of money in that line of work. Forger forges friends, makes enemies too. End quote. So the poison stamp might have been a murder weapon aimed at him.
Objection!
Oh, rich. That's rich. Leave the ridiculous flights of fancy to the governor's song lyrics, please. This is funny. I love that he knows the songs are bullshit. Like, he knows the songs are bullshit. It's the whole thing. Like, he's an idol. He's an idol, and like, the original context of this being a Japanese game, he, like, idols in Japan write their music, originally, wrote their music as kind of like pick-me-ups. Like, if you look up Morning Musume and, like, those older groups especially, they just silly, vapid lyrics. And so that's what the Governors are. And he knows that. God, he's so fascinating. Okay, we have to move on. Finally, something we agree on. Just... I'm fine. The stamp was a murder weapon? Nonsense. Murder is a simple business. Who would go to such lengths? No one. Oh, I disagree. Come again? Recall, if you would, the victim's reclusive lifestyle. I mean, part of the reason Clavier is attracted to Apollo is the fact that he's so blunt and honest. True! He appreciates someone who isn't a people pleaser. True! And not afraid to say what he thinks. So true! So true. He loves that Apollo is super honest. Because he lives a life that is not. He lives a life that is not. Just get a room too. Holy shit. So true. So true. Finally, we agree on something. Let's make out. Okay. Anyway. Drew Measham hid from the world. He avoided meetings. His only contact with the outside world was the mail.
The mail!
Now, if you wanted to kill someone you couldn't meet, but you knew red letters, a stamp would be the perfect weapon. Ridiculous. Where's your proof? I want proof. Show us evidence that this poison stamp was sent to him as a murder weapon. I might not have evidence, per se, but things are finally starting to come together. Excuse me. That was nasty. That was like a creature coming out of me.
Oh, what is it, Apollo? Your fists are trembling.
I think I know what happened. I don't believe it, but I can see it. I think I know how Mr. Measham was killed.
Well, fill us in, Mr. Justice.
A certain piece of evidence points to the truth, Your Honor, does it? Already? Trucy in the courtroom, just seeing these two flirting all the time. Trucy gets paid overtime for that, probably. I can show you how someone with the intent to kill sent Mr. Measham the stamp of death. This, oh, that's right. This had an enclosed stamp. Who sent this?
Isn't this the envelope? The one from 7 years ago.
Think about the text of the letter again. There were 2 pages in the envelope. This is page 1. And this is page 2. I want to draw your attention to one phrase in particular. Send in the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp within 3 days. The enclosed stamp, Your Honor.
Ah!
In other words, if I have this straight, the stamp, poison, on the stamp, lick, lick, gasp, end quote. Now, what if he had done exactly as the letter asked?
He would sign the document, put in the envelope, and put the stamp on it, right? Then he would put it in his letterbox.
15 minutes wouldn't have elapsed between affixing the stamp and mailing the letter. But the clock started ticking, and when the time came, he drew his last breath, no pun intended, on his name, you know. And the murder weapon would be taken away from the scene.
Quite conveniently, thanks to the postal system.
Ivy, just curious when your Apollo character analysis is going to be ready. Probably not till after we finish this game at the very least. But there's more games with Apollo in them. Don't you worry your little head, Karma. More games with Apollo. Such a splendid imagination you have, Herr Forehead. Let me confirm one thing with you, if I might. So, this poisoned stamp was inside this envelope from 7 years ago. Yeah. Is that what you'd have us believe? Really? Well?
It is a little bit of a stretch, but there's a possibility.
Is this the last one with sprites? No, there are the investigation games, which we'll play next. What Catherine said, I'm afraid. Yeah. Yes, a very small possibility. How small, I wonder? A poisoned stamp in this envelope? A stamp that then became the murder weapon. How do you intend to improve this seeming coincidence? Well, let's track who sent the letter.
Well...
It was 7 years ago and we don't even know who sent that letter. Track it down. And your answer is silence, I see. Very well. I move to... Oh my god, this part makes me crazy! Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm gonna shit myself. I forgot this happened. This early. I thought this happened later. My god, I don't even remember his voice. It's fine. It's not nice to frick on... to frick on? I can't talk. I'm just freaking out. I'm just now starting to love these characters' writing. It's alright, I mean, just take your time. Yay, I'm so glad you're getting into it. Let's fucking go. I do think this game has excellent character writing. Whew. It's not nice to pick on the Fraulein, Clavier. Emma! My heart's racing! Why did she do that? There's such a good comic from this, too. Well, like my Christoph Gavin impression? Did I sound like him? Don't quit your day job. Don't you have a crime scene to be looking after, a Fraulein detective? Someone had to come dig you out of all the mess you're making of this case. Mess? You know, none of this would happen if you just trusted in science a little more. You can find out if that stamp was in the envelope easy. Care to explain yourself, Fraulein detective? Glare at me all you want, but science is on my side. It's in the residue. It's all in the residue, right? He's glaring because you came in imitating his brother that he has trouble about! I'm fine, we'll talk about it later. That's right, the poison detection spray. Sprayed in the envelope.
Produce the red envelope at once. You can open it on the authority of the court.
Oop.
Well, would you look at that?
No mistaking it. That's a troponine residue.
I don't believe it. A murder weapon from the past. Now 7 years later, it bears its fangs at last.
Absolutely outrageous. Tell me why. Why didn't this murder take place 7 years ago? Well, there's one possibility. Maybe Mr. Measham figured it out.
Figured what out?
He realized that the person who sent that letter wanted him dead. So he sent his reply with a different stamp.
And put his decisive evidence in a frame.
That it? Hold it!
Ah, you're still here.
Can I make a statement here on the record? I, Spark, Razor Toothbrush, claim the scoop is mine. Alright. Drew Measham killed in cold blood. By sender of 7-year-old letter, end quote. No, maybe something more succinct. Star falls after 7-year delay, end quote. Dude, Ivy, like my Christopher Gavin impression. Sure, it was fine. Like, there's a comic of that where it's like, why does Clavier look so ill? Like, he's shaking and crying.
Order.
Clavier was about to drop dead in that courtroom. Yeah, for real.
I see no room for further argument here. No, I admit this is all coming as quite a shock. To think that the murder weapon reached his mouth after 7 years. Stamp his ticket straight to afterlife, end quote.
Uh-oh, I think the witness is a bad influence on our judge.
I see no need for further debate on this matter. The sender of that letter was 7 years ago could hardly have been our defendant.
Apollo? I think we just won.
Very well, this court finds the defendant.
The baby girl has something to say. Is this the bright future of our legal system?
Prosecutor Gavin?
A ticket to the afterlife from 7 years ago. Tickets for Gaviner's shows are invalid after 2 weeks.
But it doesn't make sense any other way.
It boggles my mind that so many people haven't noticed this. There's a fatal contradiction in Half-Warhead's claim. A contradiction? A poison stamp was placed in this envelope 7 years ago, whereupon it was framed until now. If that's the case, then why would Drew Measham have done what he did? Emma explained that. He must have realized it was poisoned. Therein lies the rub. Emma, Clavier, women-loving women, and MLM, men-loving men hostility, for real, I love them. It's true, they are worsties. I think deep down they would get along, but I've gotten into that before and we can get into it again later. 7 years ago, the forger Drew Measham sensed a trap and put the stamp in a frame. I do not debate this. But this begs the question, why, 7 years later, did he use that stamp on the night of the murder? Surely you don't mean to suggest that Mr. Measham simply forgot. He put the murder weapon in a frame on his desk for 7 years, and forgot. You expect us to believe he sprang the trap on himself? Oops. Tee.
I'll admit this is all quite shocking, myself. It does seem highly unlikely that he would fall afoul of a trap that had been sitting on his desk for 7 years.
Apollo! I don't think we're winning anymore. He's funny. I'm glad to see we're all back in the real world now. Welcome back to reality. We've been waiting for you.
Objection!
No! Okay, then how do you explain the poison stamp that was in this envelope? Monkey face Apollo, yeah. The poison stamp? Where exactly is this poison stamp again? Have you brought it to court for us? I see no proof that such a thing ever existed.
Objection!
What about the atroquinine residue, huh? Oh, I agree. That does seem to be atroquinine residue. But, half forehead, it's certainly no stamp. Yeah, but even if your precious poison stamp did exist, Drew Measham never would have used it. So it had anthrax. No, it had atroquinine. I think we won. I don't think we are winning. It's so funny. That's what I'm saying. Apollo's so funny without even trying. That is all.
I believe we've come to a conclusion. Again.
Apollo, were we wrong the whole time? I can't believe it. The poison traces match up. It can't be coincidence.
I'd like to bring some closure to this issue sometime this year. Mr. Justice,
Yes, Your Honor.
let's review the facts and see where we stand. 7 years ago, Drew Measham received a red envelope.
This was not the last Sprite game. There were the investigations games.
There were traces of the poison atroquinine on the document inside that envelope. A similar trace was also found at the crime scene on this tiny picture frame. The defense has indicated the possibility of a yellow envelope. An envelope...
No, we didn't. Brushel did. We didn't indicate that. Brushel did.
An envelope that left the scene of the crime with the poison stamp on it.
Yes, but even if this envelope contained a poisoned stamp, and Drew Measham, knowing this, put in a frame, he never would have used that stamp. Yeah, the investigation games use sprites.
I'm afraid you're right. Which means there is a fatal flaw in the defense's case.
I haven't been on the wrong track this whole time, I'm sure of it. The traces of atroquinine, the envelope, the frame, and Drew Measham's mysterious death. They're all connected somehow.
Well, Mr. Justice, do you have a conclusion for us?
The defense stands by its case, Your Honor. We've seen that the logical outcome of the evidence makes no sense, which means that one of our clues must be a fake. Ah, a fake clue. Fascinating. And if we find this fake, your wild fantasies will prove quite reasonable, yeah? The fake clue that's thrown us off the poison's trail is none other than... I think Drew. I think Drew Measham. Maybe. Because... Right? Because... You'll see.
The victim was a fake clue. I'm afraid I don't understand.
I'll explain. We have an envelope, a frame, and a mug, linked by poison. That all makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the victim himself.
Objection!
Congratulations. You've completely lost me. So the fake evidence is none other than the master of fake himself, the forger? It makes a good story, I'll give you that. He's not the forger. The fake clue. Fakes. Forgeries.
I know that face. That's the I just had an idea face.
I don't know if I'm right, but I'm going with it anyway. What if our forger is the fake?
Come again.
7 years ago, our forger sniffed a trap and stepped aside. 7 years passed. Now the forger stumbles into that very same trap and dies. Why?
That's what I want to know.
Because the forger who was killed was a fake.
Here we are again. The victim was a fake.
He wasn't the forger. One forger smelled the trap, one forger fell into the trap. They're not the same person. That's 2 forgers. And one of them was a fake. Come on and slam, and welcome to the jam. I'll miss this song, dude.
Order, order, order!
So you were telling us that Drew Measham, the victim, was a fake. Well, if he was the fake, who was the real forger? That's easy. You better not be claiming there was some kind of switcheroo.
I'm afraid you're going to have to back up your story. Mr. Justice, show us who the real Drew Measham was.
If Drew Measham wasn't the real forger, there's only one other person it could have been. Understood, Your Honor. Forger Drew Measham himself was himself a forgery. The real forger was... There can be only one explanation, really. The real identity of the forger known as Drew Measham is none other than his only daughter, Vera Measham. This song does go so hard.
Order, order, order! Mr. Justice, this is going out on a limb even for you.
I kinda agree. I mean, Vera, a forger?
Let's consider it before you write it off entirely. If you look at the paintings in the studio, one fact becomes quite clear. Forgery had been taking place in that studio for quite some time. The forger wasn't caught in that trap 7 years ago. This can only mean that the one who was caught in the trap wasn't the forger.
Well, actually, that does make a certain kind of sense.
One more thing. Only 2 sets of fingerprints were found in the forger's studio. Drew Measham's and Vera Measham's. If we know that Drew Measham wasn't the forger, that leaves only one possibility by process of elimination. The forger was Vera Measham. Well... Yeah, there he goes. I was like, let him air guitar. Scream. Fascinating. Hey, girl.
Vera Measham. You've been paying attention to the trial so far?
Let's just ask her and be done with it, shall we? Who are you?
Who is the forger, Drew Measham? Was that an expression of emotion I saw on her face? She's staring holes into Prosecutor Gavin's face.
I'm used to being stared at by Fraulines, believe me. Though they usually talk to me, too. Tell us, were you the one who forged those works of art?
She's scared of him. Damn, why Vera look kinda... Yeah, she's really pretty.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what happens when you don't yell at a girl.
So the forger, Drew Measham, was you?
Yes, it was me.
What? What?
Good for her. The court was in an uproar, and it wasn't coming down. We had to break for a 10-minute recess. We're gonna keep going. The white hair girl voice, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I must use it for her. Even though it is probably one of my least favorite voices to do because it is just so exhausting on my voice. But it works because she doesn't ever fucking talk, so. Alright. We're going, by the way. We're still going. Let's go. Because this next part won't be very long.
Okay. So where exactly does this leave us, Apollo?
Well, the Drew Measham who was killed wasn't Drew Measham the forger, basically.
Huh? Well, then who was he?
Well, he was actually doing her nails. So you really made those forgeries?
Yes. Her father. I know it was wrong. Could you tell us how it happened? My father was a painter. I loved painting ever since I was a child.
She was staring at Clavier as if she saw someone similar to him, meaning Kristoff? Well, I mean, she was staring at him because she was scared of him.
One day, Father saw it in me. He saw that I had the talent.
The talent for making forgeries?
How should I say it? It was not only paintings I made. Given the materials, I could make anything.
Anything?
Father was so proud, and I so happy. But in the end, I was making those.
Forgeries.
I've never had a good constitution, nor personality. I know very little of the world outside my door. Now, because of me, Father is...
Do you know about this red envelope?
I remember that envelope. It was some time ago.
So you were already, creating your works back then?
I started when I was only 12 years old.
So the one who figured out the stamp was poisoned. That was...
Mr. Justice, it's time. To the courtroom, please.
Oh, I did the judge's voice on accident, it's fine. Right. Out of time.
Wait, Vera, just one more thing, please. Those 3 paintings in the studio. I painted those as part of my work.
Right. See, we checked them out and we saw what was underneath. We saw the rough sketches underneath the 3 finished paintings. I'm glad she remembered to ask about this. God, that third one is so dope. I want that as like a painting. Maybe I can recreate that in color.
I see. Mr. Justice.
Yes?
Father, he knew of you. Of both of you.
Your late father?
He was watching, gathering information. All about the Wright & Co. law offices.
But lately, we're not just doing just law.
Yes, you do tricks, gags to amuse, and play piano.
Well, they're not really gags.
Yet when Father heard you had resumed the legal business...
Oh, he was happy.
How pleased he was.
Aw. Who was Mr. Measham? How am I supposed to know? What if he was Daddy's daddy? Judging from the relative ages involved, I'd say it's highly unlikely. How old was Drew? 52? Yeah, unlikely. Things are already confusing enough with all these daddies running around. Oh dear. We know that the victim's daughter, Vera, was the forger. What does this mean for the case? I guess we're about to find out. She's so little.
Court is now back in session.
Oh, she bites her nails. Aww. Is she the type that tries to paint her nails to discourage herself from biting them? That never worked for me. I just had to fiddle with something else. Vera seems pretty tense. She's practically chewing her fingernails clean off. Perhaps you could begin by telling us how it all worked. Maya would be 27 at this point and Emma 25. Maya would be 26. She's only 1 year older than Emma. How did you set up this Drew Measham forger persona? Oh, she's scared of him. She's like, he's too much. Apollo's like, yeah, that's fair. There's that stare again. She's drilling more holes into his head.
I know it's hard for you, but hey, he's a handsome guy.
This game's horny, I forgot. So, Apollo, you sure you weren't thinking of Clavier, right? Right? What's hard? This is ridiculous. This game is crazy. We have to move on.
Very well, miss, if you would. Did you really make those detestable forgeries?
Perhaps you'd rather answer my question. Were you the one that painted that painting? The remarkably similar one?
Yes. I painted it, yes. Father praised me quite highly for it.
So, she was the one who made the forgeries.
I'm not horny. The game is horny. I'm not horny. TMI, I'm hardly ever horny. The game is. Yeah, Emma and Maya are only a year apart.
So, she was the one who made the forgeries. Okay, whatever.
Yet she did not wish to reveal the truth of their operation. So the victim was a stand-in, a decoy. To the world at large, he was the forger, not her.
I've done a bad thing. I have, haven't I?
Regardless, we need a little more information. About, for instance, this. You have seen this before, yeah?
Yes, it was in the desk drawer.
Very well, you may proceed with your testimony. Tell us everything you know about this envelope.
Denial isn't only a river in Egypt. That is a very funny joke. No, when you're on Prozac, it goes away. Pearl will be like 16, give or take. Yes, Pearl will be 16.
I created things and Father sold them. This envelope came after my first work. That was other than a painting. Father handled the deal. All of it. I received the stamp that was in that envelope. It was after that job that we moved to the current studio.
Oh, you've moved. Interesting.
There certainly was much of great interest in your testimony.
Not that the witness realizes it.
Very well, please begin the cross-examination.
Right. Okay. I need more information about this forger. This Drew Measham. So these things you were making, you mean paintings identical to other paintings, right?
The closer they were, the happier Father was. I was happy too.
Still, you're quite young now. When did you begin this work?
My first painting sold when I was 12.
Your Honor, she had no idea what she was doing was illegal. Easy there, little attorney. You're not here to defend her for the crime of forgery.
True. Please tell us more about this envelope. This envelope that may very well have killed your father.
All right.
By other than a painting, you mean you'd only done paintings up to that point?
Yes. But Father had a realization. He noticed my talent extended to making things other than paintings.
For instance?
For instance, a letter someone had written, or a fingerprint left upon a cup, or a signature on a document, a seal upon a letter.
None of this makes her sound very innocent at all. And the $100,000 promised in this letter was the start. The beginning of a new industry for Drew Measham. He was taking advantage of his daughter, TBH.
A new industry.
The creation of items to be used in criminal proceedings. Forging evidence, in other words. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I see why it connects back to 7 years ago. Scratch his head. So you didn't know how the things you were making were being used?
I enjoy painting very much.
I think I understand. The Fraulein has lived an unusual little world. Can you tell us what happened to the papers that were in this envelope?
Father signed them and sent them back, I believe.
Did he follow the instructions? Send in the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp.
This is a rather important matter. Give your answer with some thought.
You received the stamp. Okay. What do you mean, you received it?
Did I do something wrong?
You didn't use that stamp because it was dangerous, correct? Deadly poison, on the back, a troconide. A moment, Herr Forehead. You can't force an answer upon the witness. Now then, perhaps you would tell me, Fraulein Vera, why did you receive this stamp? She's scared of you, brother. Did you forget?
Is something wrong?
It was beautiful.
Ah, you mean it was one of those commemorative stamps?
Yes, I think it was.
So, you didn't know about the poison? Vera staring at Clavier will drive me so insane, I know. I guess not. So the trap failed by chance, by mistake. Thanks to this commemorative stamp.
Quite the close call.
Yeah, her eyes do look very hollow when she stares. Do you mean you moved to where the current Drew studio is?
Yes, we saw very few people there. I began drawing picture books.
The single job had tied them to the criminal underworld. I'd think Mr. Measham wished to reduce their visibility in the world at large.
When we had to meet someone for some reason, Father posed as the creator of the work.
So that was the real essence of the artist Drew Measham. You did the work and he supplied the face. Face card's so insane.
So, you really didn't know anything, did you? You had no idea how much danger you were in.
Sorry, I'm gonna save. I haven't done it in a hot second. Apparently not. Vera, an R34 artist in her spare time. That's so wretched, dude. So she's a Fujo. Let her live. About this commemorative stamp, could you tell us more about it?
It was very pretty. And more than that,
Yes.
it was a picture of people I liked at the time.
This is something new. He's gonna be like, was it the governors? I guarantee. Here it is. Apparently, we've got some cross-examination yet ahead of us. If you would be so kind as to continue your testimony, Fraulein. Oh, I'm surprised. I'm surprised he wasn't like, so the governors, right? I will tell at the end. I will tell at the end. I didn't forget. I will tell at the end. 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 I will
The stamp was a picture of my favorite magicians, so I kept it.
Ooh. Magicians?
I love mysterious things. I always have.
Even though she fainted when she saw Mr. Hat. You're confusing mysterious with freaky. Yeah, that's a jump scare, Trucy.
Father took me when I was very young. It was a great magic show. I loved it so much.
See? See? Isn't magic great? Fine, great, yeah, sure. No need to get all excited.
But the magic troupe we saw disbanded soon after. I was quite sad.
Did she just say what I think she said? Magic troupe? Now where have I heard that before? The red envelope came after she completed her first job. That makes it a letter from her client, whoever wanted a forgery made. Apollo! We're close. We just have to piece together the parts. A deadly weapon in a red envelope, and the path it took to take Drew Measham's life. Karma! Mysterious things. Vera, have you played the house in Fata Morgana? You sound an awful lot like a character from it. Vera drawing Apollo fan art during the trial like, well, my lawyers are flirting again, so true. Okay. I received a stamp that was in that envelope. Okay. This is about the magicians. So, perhaps this? Okay. Those magicians you liked. Was it this bunch? Apollo! They're not a bunch!
I see. Still, I have to wonder, why include a commemorative stamp like that in a business letter?
Good question. Well, pretty stamps are always better, and you can't beat true grammary.
But the whole murder plan was a failure because of it. Ironic, don't you think? Prosecutor Gavin?
Oh, it hurts. Hey, it hurts. Hey. Hey, feels bad. Hey, feels bad. Hey, feels bad. If you know, you know, feels really bad. Okay.
Prosecutor Gavin?
Grammary. What's with Gavin? Might I ask just one question of this witness? In your testimony just now, you stated this was your first work that was other than a painting. Please, tell me. What exactly did you make?
Can I ask why?
No. Answer the question. Now. It can't be worse than Circus Top Max should have been slammed by Diddy. I don't know what that means.
Prosecutor Gavin?
Here we go, everyone. Welcome to Act 2 of Prosecutor Gavin's Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. Let's fucking go.
Prosecutor Gavin! You're usually not the one whose volume concerns me.
Yes, it is unbecoming of me. I apologize. But I must know. Please, Miss Measham, tell me.
It was a book. A single page in a book.
A book? Please be more specific.
It was a handwritten book. Like a diary.
No! I don't. No! What's wrong with Prosecutor Gavin? He looks like he just saw a ghost. Miss Measham, this book. Was there a picture of a silk hat on the back cover? Yes or no?
How did you know?
Prosecutor Gavin, the defendant is answering all of your questions. Stop badgering her. He's told you nothing, has he? You're a soiled, sullied mentor. Nothing. Sullied who? Phoenix Wright. Who else? Daddy? He never told you about the trial 7 years ago. About how he came to lose his attorney's badge. It was a certain piece of evidence that decided his fate, you know. A certain diary. On the back, it bore the mark of a silk hat. Ugh, what? Phoenix Wright, tossed out of the profession by false evidence. And the forger who made that evidence. Is this girl standing right in front of me? Vera, you must tell us. The evidence you made was used in a trial 7 years ago. Who asked Drew Measham, you, to forge that evidence? For all of our sakes, who was it?
We only met once.
You met the client? Well, who was it?
It was...
What's going on with Vera? She's staring at Prosecutor Gavin's face again. Yes, what? Is there something about me?
I remember clearly. I remember who gave me the book. The diary.
Who was it? Vera! Defendant Vera Measham. Condition: unconscious. Examiner's diagnosis: acute atroquinine poisoning. This ends the recording of the trial for the murder of Drew Measham. Vera Measham was, during the trial, poisoned by an unknown assailant. The dosage was just under the lethal amount, sparing the defendant's life. She is currently in intensive care and is not to be disturbed for any reason. A very simple case, at first glance. Until it finally began to show its true colors. The long road to truth takes us to the record of another trial. In some ways, that was the starting point of it all. Hey! Oh my god! And that is where we must go. Ah! To find the whole truth. Dude, Thursday's gonna be so much fun, guys. Da-dun, da-dun, da. It's been so long since we've heard that music. Oh my god. Okay. Oh, you were talking about Big Top. I still don't get the Diddy thing, but, yeah, Max, he was not even the worst one. It was the ventriloquist dude. Fucking crazy. So, Claudia, so we might want to upgrade that from slight mental breakdown to full-blown mental breakdown. Okay. Okay, number one, some things I want to talk about before I ended the stream. Number one, fujoshi and fudanshi, like female and male terms, literally mean like rotten woman or rotten man, and were originally like negative terms, but have been kind of like reclaimed by the community. It's basically like huge yaoi shippers. Or, like super into BL, writing doujin. It's a lot more complex than that. But like, if I'm explaining it to outsiders, that is it. But there is a like real culture there, kind of like Lolita has its own culture and it has its own problems, but Fujoshi is not just a word. It is an identity that many people have, including me. I'm a little bit Fujoshi, just a little bit. Second, isn't yaoi just dudes and more dudes liking each other? In the simplest sense, yes. Don't worry about it. Anyway, for your under 18 ass, that's how I will explain it. Okay, number 2. Welcome indeed to fucking Clavier's no good, very bad day. Emma coming in with the Kristoff impression and him being startled is so fascinating to me. Because, like, from what we know, Clavier seemed to have trusted Kristoff. And he had no reason to not. And it's such a fascinating thing because Kristoff Gavin is a narcissist. Like, textbook definition. Where he cares very much about his image. And, like, when we think of narcissists, like, not just narcissists, like, in PD, but, like, because there is narcissistic personality disorder. I'm not saying Kristoff necessarily has that. But there are also narcissists in a general sense. And I know someone who is diagnosed. It's a very difficult diagnosis to get. I do know someone diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder who is, like, trying to live a normal life. It's very rare to get a diagnosis. Regular ass narcissists just kind of exist in society. It's very important that we differentiate between the two for the sake of people who get the diagnosis, because a lot of them are to a point where they realize they need to get help and maybe have noticed, like, a sociopathic edge to something in their life that they want to stop, or they have a partner that they care about enough, you know, whatever. Kristoff is a pretty textbook narcissist. And the thing with narcissists is that they don't always treat everyone the same way. Right? And Clavier, from what we can see and assume from what Clavier has also said, is that he felt no reason to distrust Kristoff. But we're not sure at this point. I mean, I know. And if you played this game before, you know. We're not sure how Kristoff actually felt about him. But Clavier seems to have believed in and trusted his brother up to a point. And it makes me so sad because I think about Apollo. Both Clavier and Apollo have abandonment issues, but they're very, very different from each other. Like, those issues, like how they turned out, those issues are very different. But Apollo's just doesn't care anymore. He's super autistic coded, very straightforward, blunt, like, says what he's thinking, is not afraid to hold back an opinion, is not afraid to tell someone that they're wrong. He does not save face. Whereas Clavier's entire job, both jobs, require him to save face. It is like a societal requirement for him. And I think that Clavier must look at Apollo and be like, God, he's so free. And, like, Apollo can just, like, say shit that Clavier would, I think, in his mind, love to say, and cares too much about what people think about him. And I find that dynamic so interesting. Because when I think... Because sometimes people are like, Apollo is the more boring Narumitsu, or Apollo is the more interesting Narumitsu. I don't like comparing them. I don't think they're that similar, actually. Other than just them being like a rival pair, defense attorney, prosecutor, they're not actually that similar. Because like Phoenix says stuff not because he doesn't care, but because he's like excited. He's just like saying, because he's bullshitting a lot of the time. And Phoenix actually puts up a lot of face too, as we've learned in this game, because he's so cryptic when we're not in his head. Edgeworth he tries to save face, but in doing so often ends up very cold and misunderstood. Whereas Clavier, when he's trying to save face, is very warm. He's trying to make himself more likable. He wants to be liked so much. I'm like, God, what is wrong with you? What is psychologically wrong? I personally headcanon Kristoff basically raised Clavier in the absence of their parents, whether dead or just neglectful. I don't care. Or I don't know. I don't think raised would be the right word, but I think that Clavier felt a closeness to his brother that he probably did not feel toward his parents, would be my guess. Whether that is because that was his only sibling and he thought Kristoff was really cool, or because it is like Kristoff basically raised him, or maybe Kristoff was the only person he had when he was in Germany. We don't know. We're never going to know. But I think we can assume that until this game, Kristoff was the most important person in Clavier's life, easy. Because he didn't have that many people in his life to begin with. And now, at this point, we have jailed both of his most important people. Both his best friend and like long-term co-worker, Darian, and his brother, who he admired both. He admired both of them. Even though Darian would piss him off, he admired him. Most likely neglectful parents? Mm-mm. Because of how he wants attention, that's also kind of my thought, Karma. But I don't know. We're never gonna know. Unfortunately, the games never canonically deal with that. Let me pull up my my manifesto really fast. No, because Clavier is such a people pleaser because of how he grew up. He wishes he had the freedom to not care about what other people think. It's very obvious that that's the case, yeah. We don't even need to know what the situation with his parents was for us to be able to know that, which is cool. And I think too that like Kristoff being notably well accomplished and well liked in the law community, which Clavier also has interest in, is like a lot of pressure as a younger sibling. Speaking as someone who is a younger sibling, that like, okay, all three of us kids played trumpet and I was the worst. But I felt a shit ton of pressure to be very good at it because my brothers were very good at it. And it was something I liked too. So I wanted to be good at it. Fortunately, I never really could be because I had braces and like my brothers didn't deal with that. And like my jaw is getting adjusted all the time. So my embouchure was changing all the time. Anyway, trumpets, I don't play anymore. Yeah, there's more I could say about Kristoff's narcissism. We'll get there. I think too, Clavier is also such a perfectionist, right? And so like we don't know. Again, we don't know what his parent situation was like. And even if Kristoff treated him very well, Kristoff is neurotic. And so it's easy for Clavier to look up to your older sibling and be like, he's a perfectionist. I need to be like that too, to be respected. And I especially think this because there's such an age gap between those two boys. And that is especially true. The age gaps between me and my brothers, the smallest one was 7.5 years. And so you look up to them as a kid. And if you're not a younger sibling, you may not understand what I mean. But if you're a younger sibling, you may relate. Obviously, not every family is like that. But I think Apollo Justice Anime with Gavin Brothers backstory, original episode, Capcom, please. Honestly, my only hope to get the Gavin brothers backstory we deserved. I don't trust Capcom to write it correctly. I'm gonna be so real. I don't trust them to write it well. And I know the fandom will be so annoying about it. Because there's annoying people in the Clopalo fandom. I'm gonna say it. Sorry, I have like half of the Clopalo fandom blocked on Twitter. I'm not even kidding. Part of that's because they're minors. Part of it, there's like 14-year-olds, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot the 14-year-olds like this game, like Karma. But I'm like, I don't want to see you on Twitter. So if I see something and I go to their profile and I see minor, I block them immediately. Because I'm making a safe space for myself. I don't, but also I've blocked a lot of people with just shite takes. And I'm like, you don't understand these characters at all, especially Clavier, where people fall for the persona. They fall for the persona and think that's his thing. And I'm like, no, that's a persona. Apollo literally notes it. Do we have to go back and look at the screenshots? Like, and another thing that kind of points to me, sorry, Karma. I said 14 because I was like, that's the youngest I've seen. I think. No, that's a lie. I saw a 13-year-old once and I almost gagged. I was like, no. Big sister and I are 6 years apart. I definitely relate. Oof, yeah. I think another thing too is that like because he lived in Germany, we don't know what his time in Germany was like or what kind of community he had while he was there. But like this is another thing that is hard for people who have not experienced it to understand. But when you study abroad, and I think I've said this before, but when you study abroad and you come back, you feel so strange. There's a word for it, I think, in another language, but it's like the world around you changed and you changed, but they did not happen in a parallel line like they used to. Because like you were changing with your environment, but you went to a different environment and you changed with that environment and you come back to your original environment and that environment changed, but not in the way that you're going. And like, I think that would be, I know, I shouldn't even say I think, I know that that's an isolating experience because I've experienced it. You feel out of place. Exactly, Karma. And so when you come back from that experience, sometimes people discard it completely. And then sometimes people cling to it. And I do think that it's possible he's clinging to it because he can make it part of his persona that is letting him be, it's a fun thing instead of a thing that isolates him. And like that shit, yeah, is so relatable. Literally anyone who acts like Apollo doesn't like Clavier does not get it. Oh, sorry. Okay. Literally anyone who acts like Apollo doesn't like Clavier does not get it. He doesn't hate Clavier. He hates the flashy rockstar persona, and it's true about Emma too. That's the other thing. Emma doesn't like flashy things. She didn't like it when her sister put on her persona in Rise from the Ashes. So of course she doesn't like Clavier's dumb persona. If he would take down his persona and they would talk, they would probably get along, is the thing. They'd still pick on each other because that's also Emma's love language. But like, I fully believe that they had the potential to be friends and it just got fucked. Yeah. Yeah, I'll have more to talk about when we get further into this case, but the things I'm talking about with like the being abroad and like feeling like putting on this persona to be liked and to be appreciated and to be taken seriously, we're going to see a lot on Thursday. And it makes me crazy. That boy has anxiety. I want to see Emma, Paul, and Clavier just being honest with each other. Dude, Karma, there are some fics about that. I mean, when we get, unfortunately, you can't read it yet, but one of the fics that I wrote has that. There's a fic that I want to write, that is about the three of them and their friendship. I don't want to say the idea because I don't want someone to take it. It's my creative property. But I've been thinking about that fic idea for a while. And I think I'll probably start writing it after I finish this one shot. That's not a one shot anymore. It's 3 chapters now. It might be 4. Sorry. I mean, why else does Clavier fall for Apollo despite Apollo constantly hating on his music? Because he's honest enough to say he hates it to his face. It's the one thing that like, Clavier's like, finally someone honest, someone he doesn't have to pretend around. Like both Apollo and Trucy, because I don't think, look, with my Fujoshi shipper glasses on, I do see the Apollo, but I have to acknowledge that Trucy also would find Clavier relatable. And again, I'll talk about that more in a later game. But it's the truth. Not only is it true, it's the truth. And that's on God. Anyway. God damn it. I'm sorry, Karma. That one's not on you. It's when we get past Spirit of Justice, there's a huge spoiler that I can't reveal yet. That is required to know to read that fic. And I realized when I wrote it, I was like, none of my friends are going to be able to read this except like Nem. But if you like Spirit of Justice and you know how it ends, and you want to read a fic about grief, you should just look it up on AO3. Just look it up on AO3. Just start digging. You'll find me eventually. No, Karma, trust me, I don't want this spoiled for you. Spirit of Justice is very good, in fact. The haters? Excuse me. If you're a Spirit of Justice hater in my chat right now, go fuck yourself. Don't come to my streams. I'm so serious. If you're a Spirit of Justice hater, don't come to my streams. We do not get along. That game was made for me. And when we get to it, you'll be like, holy shit, Cat, but it was made for me. Anyway. We have to stop. I'm losing my voice. I have to do things tomorrow. Okay. Have to be normal. All right. Anyway, Thursday there will be a stream. Saturday there will be a stream. Sunday there will not be a stream. I'm doing Terror Camp. But then there should be normal stream schedule until my holiday break, which is like after the 21st or something like that. I don't know. I'm not bringing any of my gaming systems with me. Yeah, the 22nd, I'll be able to stream. I'm going to look, though. Hold on. Oh, yeah. We'll be able to finish this by the 22nd. If not just on the 22nd. Sick. Okay. Yay. Yay. Okay. Yeah, Spirit of Justice should definitely not be spoiled. It has been so hard. I hang out with my friend Megan every week. And Ivy, you know this Megan. Actually, Karma, you know this Megan too because you've seen her in chat. I hang out with this person every week. And she and our other friend are slowly playing through the games. They will get to Spirit of Justice in January. When everyone's back from break and stuff. It has been so hard to keep my mouth shut about anything about Spirit of Justice. The only thing I've allowed myself to kind of talk to her about is like, the new prosecutor exists, but she knows nothing else. Oh, and she knows that it's a game meant for me. And that's it. And I'm like, I'm going to be so annoying. 2025 is January. Come that time, I'm going to be so annoying. She will probably stop coming over every week. I'm calling it now. That game catered to my hyperfixations so much. So much. Especially the 4th case. Anyway. If you know, you know. But most of you don't. So, anyway. Okay. Anyway, I'm feeling crazy. You know the drill. Oh, I'm so ready to yap more during the investigation. Woo, this case is a doozy in itself, but Spirit of Justice is really where Apollo's character analysis really pops up. Dude, same. Dude, Ivy. Hey, Ivy, not to pressure you, but you should read my fanfiction. Because if you're wondering how I feel about any of it, I say it in all of that. So anyway, you know the drill. How many minutes have we spent yapping about this? I don't even know anymore. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. Be good to yourself. Be kind. Stay safe, especially during the holidays. Stay hydrated. Please wear a mask, especially during this season. It's really important that you do that. And like be nice to retail workers this time of year, especially. A lot of them are not paid enough to put up with bullshit. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for yapping with me. Oh my god, my neck just popped. Sorry if you heard that. And I will see you when I see you. Okay, bye. Ah! I'm so excited.